Two or live. I I did it on two. Hello and welcome to Productivity and Procrastination. I'm Joe and he's James. And we're a couple of procrastinators looking to get productive. And this is episode 39? 40? I want to say 39. Help us, James.
I will help you.
Help
It is
us,
episode
James.
39.
39. I should just trust my intuition.
See, the Force doesn't help you if you don't actually listen to it, Joe.
Yeah. Is it the midichlorians? Is that the...
I don't even pay attention to that shit.
Okay. Because
He
it
was
sounds like that's
smoking
the
some wrong
powerhouse of the
stuff
cell.
that day. Yeah, no doubt. Mitochondria somehow. That's mitochondria's ex-wife is the midichlorians.
That's great. Took the last name. Yeah. Well, welcome. We are on week 39, looking at week 40 on a happy Monday morning. We're a little bit earlier than we usually are.
Skipping right over this week. We're already at 40 soon, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a big deal. Means we're getting close to the end of the year. We got like 14 episodes.
Man, you in this end of the year.
I know it's a big deal though.
Well, some would say every week is just as important when it comes to production.
Is that true?
We'll see. We'll see how we did this week.
All right, well, let's start with your week, James.
Oh no, you want to skip on this one so fast? I'm very curious now.
You want to talk about my week? You want to talk about how I did?
Let's hear
I
it.
did pretty good. I worked on this week working on snake scales. Like, my entire week has been dedicated to scales. I tried one way. Did not work. Looked not good. I tried another way, and I'm like maybe 60% of the way done, and I'm like, because I'm drawing individual scales, and it's hundreds of them. And I'm trying to... So, okay. I have to remember that a big part of what I'm doing right now is laying the groundwork for future illustrations. I'm
Right.
getting that impatient feeling of like, this can be good enough. And I need to discuss whether there is a such thing as good enough versus like completing the illustration versus waiting.
What
And
did
it's
you
not.
conclude?
I haven't got a conclusion yet.
Well, where are you at?
So I'm currently at drawing scales. So basically it's, do I start over on the scales?
And that start over for the second time,
For the third time.
third time.
No, no, you're right. It would be starting over the second time. Um, do I start over again and try it? Because I don't know how I would do it differently. I guess I'd have to do some more research, which is fine. I don't hate that. Um, it's it's hard.
Or
Or I push forward with what I have, which is, it's not necessarily a bad version of the scales. It's not bad. It's just boring. It's uninspired. It's not exactly what I was going for. It doesn't look realistic. And we're live again. We're
excellent.
live. We had some technical difficulties. Some, yes. Anyways, we were discussing, James,
Your scales.
my scales, and the scale, and in the same phonetic universe, the scale of completion versus perfection, and where on that scale should I land it?
So, what is your, you've obviously mulled this over a little bit. So, what did you come up with for that answer before I dive in?
I have a general sense of these scales. I don't want these scales to stand between me and finishing this illustration. I don't want the scales to be why it takes me an extra month to finish this illustration. But at the same time, right, I want to make a perfect illustration. And is this, because my brain is like, is this part of the illustration process, figuring out how to make these scales, like breaking this down? Like, what am I passing up if I pass by these scales in a meaningful way?
And did you come up with any kind of solution?
No. So I wanted to discuss it with you.
Okay. You're using Photoshop?
Correct.
Therein lies the answer. How would you answer? What do you want? What am I going to say with layers? It doesn't immediately come to you. Okay,
No.
so let me explain it. You've been working on this for a while. You want to. There are a few things that you want to do. You want to establish some kind of workflow that makes sense. That's probably number one. Mm-hmm. Number two is you want a finished piece that could potentially be a usable reference of your work, of your quality. You
Right.
want something that is, a, what would you call it? The word is escaping me, but
Illustration.
yeah, illustration. Anyway, a finished illustration that can be example of your work.
Yeah.
Okay. Every new illustration that you do, sometimes I think that there's going to be things that you might have to research, you might have to learn a little bit about, you might have to design a something, but a lot of the times you're probably just utilizing the skills you got, maybe looking at some
Mm-hmm.
reference images, and continuing the process until completion. So, in my opinion, I think you need to focus on the number one workflow, getting through this picture and realizing that your layers allows you to go back later on and hyper change those scales into something that you want into the future when you want to, when you can, when you have the workflow down, have something under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could potentially be just, well, whatever it is, just that's what I think you need to do.
Okay. I think there's a logic there too, and I
It can still be a finished illustration that you're
oh
using
yeah.
in your portfolio, but it doesn't have to be right this second. You've chosen something that has come up with a secondary issue. And you know what? You're going to put that one on the back burner. Illustration, being this whole process of artistry is going to be something you're going to be working on forever. So I would say, get the piece done, shelf that one thing. It's like, okay, yeah, they're okay scales now.
Yeah.
They're not what I want, but you know what? I'm going to look into that. That's going to be some side thing that I work on in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to work on something that is exciting to me, afterwards. After this illustration is where I want it to be besides the scales.
Right.
And I think that's a good way of doing it because you want to get an estimation of your workflow in time also. And if this thing drags on too long, it can put you down. It can, make you have an unrealistic, idea of your workflow and the timing and all that. And to some degree, it can maybe even allow you to kick the can down the road and not actually do what you want to do. So
Right.
that's what I think you need to do.
Okay. No, I agree. That's kind of where my head was at because there is this level of like, slogging through it. And it's not like I didn't research how to do scales because I did, and it's just like I'm not sure how to do it. Like I've learned more about snake scales than I ever cared to learn, but it's how do I represent that in a meaningful way. It's a complex subject, which I can get into if you want me to. But
No.
yeah. But yeah, it's. I think you're right. I think skipping over the scales for now, like making a fine version of the scales, and then coming back later, or we're just using what I learned in a future piece. Like, to me, it's important that I finish an illustration because that's where I'm excited. And the issue is like I was so excited to have like no compromises, and so like I feel like I'm already going back on that, and that's a struggle for me too because it's like
Yeah.
I wanted to make the perfect illustration.
I know. But you need to shelf your perfection, I think, right at this point and just go, okay, I can make it perfect at a later date. That's what layers are great for.
Yeah.
Just go back and go, okay, that's no longer existing, and I'm going to start right here. And it's like you never created those other scales, And and you can do before and afters, and all sorts of stuff. So it's not like this won't be in the portfolio. Just might be later on down the line more than you think, and or in two separate places, kind of in your journey here. This is what I made when I was really getting serious in the beginning. This created my workflow. This is the first thing I did, and then, but I wasn't happy with it, and it became this later on. Once I learned more, once I went back, there's nothing wrong with that. It just adds to the story. So
Yeah.
I'm down with it.
Yeah. Okay. Then yeah, I should be able to finish the scales up from where I'm at, and then start on like coloring. Well, I want to do a couple more passes, or at least one more pass through the anatomy. But then it's coloring. Figuring out
Great.
background and coloring. I'm excited.
So let's turn from what you did or didn't do to how much time and effort did you put in this week, and in your opinion, how did that go? Like,
So yeah, let's go over it. Tuesday, I spent I woke up, I think half an hour later than I wanted to, but still got a good hour and a half in. And I think I woke up on time on Wednesday. I ended up, doing my 2 hours. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. No, Thursday, I did the same thing. I think I woke up like half an hour later and did the same thing. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I didn't set an alarm, but I woke up at 8 and started working on it. Other than Friday, when I woke up, I got caught in a doom spiral or a doom scroll. And I had a hard time breaking out of that. I think the scales were getting to me, because I felt like I was fighting a uphill battle. But then Saturday and Sunday, I spent at least a good probably 4 hours each day working on them.
So, and you had Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Correct.
Okay. Well, so on your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I mean, it sounds like you did fine waking up, half hour here and there. Oh well. Um, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's what when we get time off, that's when we got to evaluate, how we would be if we did this and this was what we did for a living or something. We have these days off. How are we as, that's kind of the way I would look at it. How do you evaluate how that felt? Did you feel like, I mean, of course, first one, you can probably say, oh yeah, I kind of,
Yeah, I flubbed that one up.
waste that one up.
Yeah.
But Saturday and Sunday, did you approach it more from that angle, or was it more like a vacation day, or like how did that work out?
Um, it so there was this level of, do you remember the goat picture?
Yeah.
It felt like that, where it was like, I'm gonna work on this, and it wasn't like when I first started the Lamia, when I was like, and I think it has a lot to attribute to, when you start a project, everything's exciting, and as you work through it, that excitement can wear away, and you are left with like just the work of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I was suffering a little bit from that. So it's like I worked on it because to me illustration and creating it's important to me and it's what I want to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't easy. And I think something that I need to figure out is how to make or how to reignite the excitement in the middle of the project. Because with that excitement isn't just like, oh, I want to do it. It's, oh, how do I do this in an interesting way rather than plugging away at it. I will say that my brain has been racking itself about these scales. Like I wake up thinking about it, I go to sleep. It's just my brain's trying to solve it.
Well, so you would probably say that you allowed the scales to they had a big influence in how your work just of the weekend has gone in general. Just because I feel like you need to separate your workflow of your illustrations and the workflow of your job as an artist, the life of an artist. And that even if you have a problem with the illustration, if you separate the two, you should be able to transition into, okay, this is a problem right now. My brain will work on it. You need to kind of trust that. That's what it's for. And you need to move into, okay, but as in the workflow of an artist, now I'm in that. And now I need to do something that is going to further that system, how I behave in that.
Do you have any
And
what kind
move
of
into
stuff?
something else. Like you could have painted, you could have done something else. You could have started a new piece. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Well, yes, but I want to complete the illustration, and my fear with starting a new piece.
Understanding, but look at what happened. It stopped you and it tripped you up. You need to be a little bit more malleable in that way, because even if you had this for a job, and somebody wanted you to create a piece, but they might have you doing multiple ones at the same time. So you might have something that's is more complex than the other, but you need to be able to shelf that and go, okay, I'm gonna work on this right now. I'm gonna let my subconscious and my brain chunk away at this, and not not be so tense on that and just concentrate on this now and just allow myself to figure it out. Maybe, those are the things that I would say, because even though you wanted to get done with the scales, it became more of a problem than you thought, but you had a lot of time. So, you have to rate how much production did I get out of how much time I had.
Mm.
And so, as an artist, not just this piece, as an artist, and that's where, you have to look at yourself and go, okay, I rated probably poorly on the artist scale. Maybe I did fine on the illustration, but everything kind of that I'm trying to do is to create the workflow of the creator. And then, kind of rate myself, okay, how much production did I do? But then how's the life? How am I putting that into the format of, the photographer, the author, the whatever. And even if I don't get something done here, I'm still working on this, And so I feel like that may help you if you separate the two a little bit and you just go, okay, not to beat yourself up a little bit over something you haven't figured out yet. You will figure it out at some point. Do not even stress about that. You have no... But being able to not get into a doom scroll because, it has affected you, and then move into, okay, shelf that. Now I can focus on, some other aspect of what I want to do here. Even if it's just purely for yourself. You mentioned how you don't really want to maybe sell paintings, but maybe just for yourself. Okay, I'm going to use this time now to just relax, let my brain think about this, anything. Well, anything's better than doom scrolling, but
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
But yeah, you kind of get what I mean, like maybe separating the life versus the task.
Yeah, so maybe basically in the event that I'm struggling with something, kind of break off and do something else artistic that's furthering me along in my artistic journey, that isn't bashing my head against the brick wall of my current problem.
Yeah, and if you kind of section it off as, hey, I'm working on two problems here. I'm working on the workflow of the illustrator and the workflow of your occupation that you want, your lifestyle that you want. And so to be able to kind of jump into those two and to see them as kind of separate so you can evaluate them separately. Sometimes I won't have progress in what I do, but I maybe have a progress in a little bit of a tweak in my workflow as a creator. And so there is progress, but it may be because I've separated it out too in my mind a little bit more concretely than maybe you have.
That's interesting. I'm not sure about the workflow of the creator, but it does sound like it would be... I can't disagree with the idea that it would be good to work on other things that are going to further my artistic career, my artistic journey, if I'm stuck with something. Because it's always been that way with me, and I think just people in general. Like if you get stuck on something, take a break, do something else, come back, and it'll be easier.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, James, how was your week?
Okay. Well, seeing it from the situation of what we were just talking about, I would say my week was pretty balanced. I had a little bit of a tweak in my workflow as, you know, the artiste, and work done on the actual task. So I bought this like calendar journal thing, and I've been utilizing that to kind of keep track of what I do and maybe, you know, plan it a little bit. Monday we just did our podcast, and I apparently didn't do anything after or forgot about it. The next day though, my wife's car had a problem. I had to wake up and drive to her and figure out what was going on with that, buy a bunch of junk. So that day was kind of shot. Wednesday, I started editing. Started Lightroom, which, you know, I had to calibrate my monitor, fix my backup issue, and figure out that. Got everything working, and then just started basically learning Lightroom a lot more, and making a master file for, like, if I ever had to clean install all the settings that I need, what I need to change. I made video on that so that if I ever questioned it, I can just open up the video and watch all my settings. And just have a master document I've been appending as I learn everything I need to do. I edited in Lightroom all of my photos, and Heather was great at helping me learn all that. Man, it's nice having somebody who knows what they're doing right next to you to ask every question about. Tell you, to figure all that stuff out, I don't even know how many videos I would have had to watch.
Yeah.
So that's nice. And now I'm basically exporting it all to PSDs and sealing her format on, like, how she organizes all of her files, and just basically learning. So I'm now in the Photoshop phase, so I'll be learning all that. It's taken a while. I worked on the editing aspect 3 separate days to finally get done, but I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the everything I need to do in Lightroom for the exposures and the darkenings of things and angle changes and all sorts of junk in there. It's a pretty nice tool. And then there was just a few days of just making my life a little better, cleaning up my cars, and living room finally doesn't have a bunch of Photoshop tubs and stuff in it, or photos tubs and stuff. So everything's nice and clean. We've now fully transitioned into normal life after a shoot, which is good. And we're working on a logo for my business. We're probably about 80% done with that. I think we're getting real close. And we did I'd say a very good job. We have 4 days out of the week where we can actually work on stuff, really. And that is going really well. And I've tweaked. We're starting this podcast earlier by a few hours. And that's going to help me slide a few tasks and commitments that I have during the week into different slots so I can maximize things and add a little bit of time with my daughter because she's kind of like not plugged in really well. So I'm able to do that better now. So the workflow of when I have work done, kind of like the workflow of the creator section of my life that's a good piece that's been solved a little bit. I think it's going to go really well next week. And the drive of just trying to dive in and learn and get better at what I'm doing is pretty good. There's probably a day where I didn't do as much as I probably could have, lounged around or something. But in general, I'd say it went pretty well.
Nice. That's awesome. No, I don't mind just waking up early, especially if like it uh makes your schedule a lot easier. Because I mean, that's just what. Oh, we have more of our. I have more of my day off to use. Oh no!
Right? Oh no.
But yeah, no, it sounds like you had a good week. So this week's plan is getting stuff up for sale, or
This week's plan is to dive into the Photoshop aspect of editing and hopefully get done with it. I
what do
honestly
you use
don't
in Lightroom
know.
versus Photoshop?
Lightroom just does other things better than Photoshop for photography, um, adjusting exposures and you know white balancing, and doing that on a massive scale, a lot easier than opening up 100 photos in Photoshop at the same time and trying to make all their the lighting all congruent and everything just like seamless in the same like world. It's much easier in Lightroom. So it's just another tool, very powerful in a different way. Saves you a lot of time in the long run before you get into the Photoshop side of actual nit and gritty, detail kind of like editing. But anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. It's great. But yeah, it's things have going well. I'd say since kind of pulled the trigger on working, um, it's been going good, and I haven't played that many games this week. I don't. I think we've had like an hour here and there. Maybe Heather and me played a game together. Probably on the TV, just. But if we did, it was probably at the end of the night. Last hour as we go to bed kind of thing. Um, but I'm pretty happy with how everything's going. Um, and I've solidified, what days, to work, and I know what goal I'm going for. I want to get these things up. I want to start generating the money on that aspect. So everything's pushing me to do something. Um, yeah, I don't have any anything I feel like needs to change right now that I haven't already just edited already. So now it's just a push to work and try to maximize how much of that. I'm not immune to doom scrolling either, and that's probably what happened on my Monday. is I probably doom scrolled my life away or something.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a day where it was probably the 16th then. But if you're listening out there in viewerland, um, hopefully you glean something out of this whole thing.
Yeah. I think because we're both at this point where we're dumping a lot of time into what we're doing. Like, I feel like we're really pushing ourselves, really pushing ourselves. But it doesn't feel like we're pushing ourselves. It feels like this is just the result of these last 2 years and figuring out what works for us. And it's
Right.
more of a ramp up than anything. And so if you're out there and you're like, how the heck is that a spicy V8? It's all blurry. Nice.
I know.
If you're out there wondering like, how do I start working on this stuff like 2 hours a week? You have to build it up. At least that's my again, me and James have different renditions of how to do this. I would say start a little at a time, start a streak, just make sure you're doing it daily, and then it'll ramp up over time. James will tell you different, but again, this everyone has their own things that's going to work for them, and I'm not going to sit here and smack on James's approach.
No, especially since it's working so well. No, there's nothing wrong with working on stuff a little bit at a time and making it more part of your life. Mm-hmm. I feel like where it's a problem for me is that I failed so much at it that I feel like that I don't trust my habits. And so for me, it was like, okay, I need to be 100% sold on doing this. Like, so much that I'm willing to just really stop other things. And I think when I finally got to the point, from just drowning myself in that, I'm like, this is the quest I have is to turn into this. And it wasn't just that, but it was getting all these other pieces of my life kind of like correct to be able to make that really possible. Because it isn't just deciding to do things that make me fail, because almost anything can trip me up. It's understanding why I choose to do all these things so well that I've prepared for those, and that I have a space in my mind to make the decision. I can pause and choose. There's so much to it that it isn't easy. But this pattern that we have, looking at ourselves every week, is such a big deal.
Yeah, self-reflection. Like, you have to be able to ask yourself the hard questions, and sometimes we already have excuses set up for those hard questions.
It's possible.
That's why I think external accountability is powerful.
Yes. Yes. And but I mean, and you're listening to this and be like, man, are they ever just going to end this damn episode? But, uh, I think, looking back a little bit, we are in that different phase now where it's kind of like work time. And the question of whether we're going to do it is kind of like, I don't think about that anymore. I don't think, oh, am I going to do anything? It's not even on my mind. It's just like, how much am I going to pull the trigger when I can? And how much is that going to yield as a result? Yeah, and it's kind of an exciting phase. Because now I'm not concentrating so much on like, oh, why didn't I do this? And the like almost like self, and it's just like, okay, how can I maximize this time now? Yeah, I did something, but how can I do even more? How can I pull that trigger faster? How can I not doom scroll even, like all these little tweaks that add to more yield.
Because this week, if you look at it, it's like, oh, we've spent the hours working on it, way more than we have, in the past, or at least for me, like way more. And it's not about, oh, you're not, why haven't you spent the hours doing it? It's how do we get more out of it? How do we get more progress? Which is, it's just a completely different question of, did you get anything done this week? Which has been our question in the past, which it's just funny to have that. Because if you go back, there's weeks where we're like, I didn't do anything on my goals. I didn't do anything of this. Or this week, it's like, oh, how much more productive I could have been if I would have done this instead. It's just, it is definitely a shift.
And I've been going back when I'm working. I've been listening to our old podcasts from this year and kind of trying to get an understanding of the things that really are helping me and the shifts that I've made that really seem like they mattered. And an understanding of, because sometimes you forget what you want, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I kind of would like that, but you just forget about it. So I've been writing down, anything that I think is relevant for my transformation, basically. And just using that time to really figure out how I can better become the ideal life that I want. It's been good. Not to say, plugging you to listen to all of it, but it's working for me anyway. I'm really solidifying who I want to be and what I do, and because of that, it's just like I'm really kind of planning ahead. Like each day, it's like, okay, tomorrow's this. This is what I'm doing. It's going well, man. I like it.
Nice. Yeah, I it feels night and day different from where we were to who we are now. And I think a lot of that, I mean, I'll keep saying it because I think it needs to be repeated. Accountability, like having these weekly check-ins, self-reflection. I think that's our biggest catalyst of growth is, and then being able to be honest and be raw and ask each other the hard questions, not just, oh, okay, that was your week. Cool, cool, cool. Good job. Good work. Like we ask each other, like, what what stopped you? And being able to have this friendship that we have where it is like is something that we've grown over the last 14 years.
Yeah. And it's not because we're like-minded people.
No.
We're like on the opposite spectrums of everything.
Yeah.
We're the poster children for if you're, crossing the line to the other side and being friends still, we're that. So it's possible. You need to find somebody who maybe isn't like exactly the same as you and might come from a different angle to push you a little bit. I don't know. I just letting that out there. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's hard to find the type of friendship that we have that we can utilize is hard to find. But I think just a weekly self-reflection through accountability with someone else is important. I am going to plug the Discord again. Join it. If you want accountability, that's the place to find it. Just post in the goals every week what you're working on. And then I'll check in with you. I'll be like, "Hey," I'll type out to you, "Hey, you've been working on your stuff?" Like I'll poke at you. But no, I think it's important. It's really important to be working on that type of stuff because, so like I said, it's self-reflection, and I think a lot of it can be attributed to just figuring out what works for you, and we're just exploring what works for us. It might take a journey to figure out what works for you. But you can't start the journey without taking that first step.
Yeah, and if you don't, feel comfortable with people, having a journal that you write in and just reflect on each week, on what you did for whatever dream you have, is at least the next, a step closer. You need something to keep you working each week. My problem was that I would work on things and then forget for long periods of time. Life hits you and you get involved with things that are interesting to you, and you just don't do the things that are the harder, dreams that you want. And so you really need to take the time to figure out what you really want, and then how do I hit this each week? Even if you did nothing that week, just something to remind you of what you want to do. And then if you do that all the time, and then to be able to find a friend, to do it with, that's the next step.
And you don't have to be working on the same thing, because me and James are not working on the same things. But as long as you're willing to discuss your goals and that type of stuff, discuss your goals for the week and how you did those and how those are coming along. And you have to be honest, because like it's gonna suck saying, "I tried, I didn't do shit," or like, "I didn't try because of this, this, and that." And you have to go into dive into like why you didn't try. Because we've had weeks. I won't pretend we didn't have weeks where we freaking didn't do anything. And we talked about it and we figured out why and we tried to eliminate those obstacles.
Yeah. And I mean, the way that you keep track of things can change too. You know, if there's certain times I was like, oh yeah, well, I just want to keep track of the time, and then sometimes you'll be like, oh no, I just need to track of the actual tasks that I do, and then you're just like, no, that's a waste of time. I need to do the, you know, you're gonna change all these little things over time. It doesn't matter as long as you're working towards solving the problem that is you, and if you never give up, I think you will eventually get there. Yeah. And you can see our journey, you know, from season 1, you know, to what it is kind of now. It has taken a few years to get to the point where we're able to just work.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you know, hey, go back and listen to our junk too. Maybe that'll help you out. Maybe you can bypass a few of the issues that you're going through, or find where you're kind of at, you know, in our spot, and then maybe you can jump out of it quicker.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we close it out here, Yams?
Nah.
All right. Well, stay frosty. Bye.